The intro to the Wisdom Table, which is a unique program developed by Brother Stu and by Brother Doug, and invited me into the community center operation here at the James Weldon Johnson Center, and the opportunity to share insight and knowledge and the skills that I have from radio, talk show, is a very gratifying one, because one, I believe in black people and their ability to learn once you show them, and I believe in young and so-called seniors. The problem in this society is that black people have tended to follow the calendar of the European. And that calendar of the European says that at 60 some odd years you retire. However, based on the kind of experience that black people have had in this nation, each person who reaches 60, 65, 70 is an expert in something. Even if it's drinking whiskey and knowing that it's going to kill you, and being in a position to say, don't do it,
Don't do
because
it. You
this is
know
what
it.
happened.
Yeah, you
I'm a-
know it,
I'm
and
a
you do it
laboratory,
anyhow.
I'm a laboratory, you understand? So my point is that black women who are so-called seniors, and I say this in complete respect to those who want to call themselves seniors, but I don't do that. That black women who are so-called seniors having their own talk show and doing their own talk show is earth-shattering. It's the kind of story that Oprah Winfrey would come in and see if it's true. Is this true? And you don't have to worry about having been or not been a college grad or whatever level of education you may have attained. It's common sense. Doing talk radio for black people is not a matter of chit chat, yuck, 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 and the kind of thing that we tend to hear in a lot of younger people doing talk shows. For me, talk shows is getting information to a people who need information. Health, education, housing, job skills, relationship skills, taking care of babies from an adult standpoint, taking care of babies from a teenage standpoint, taking responsibility from our young people standpoint, and understanding, this is another addition, understanding the poison that's in the rap music. It's not the beat so much as it is the lyrics. The words is poisoning the minds of our children.
Young people, yeah.
And we don't know, because we don't even understand what they're saying on the record, but the children can repeat. It's another language.
Yeah.
You see? So we have to be concerned with that. I'm talking about concerns of issues and whatnot, that
What it's putting in their brains.
that yeah, and that these are subject matter that you would take up on your own talk show. And then you invite guests in who are experts.
Yeah, they can elaborate.
The expertise that we have is asking questions. You don't have to be brilliant to do a talk show, but you have to be persistent in going after guests, and you have to do a little homework in terms of asking the appropriate questions. Once a guest begins to give information, respond to a question, within their answer are other questions. What do you mean by that? What's that word? Whenever you hear a word, a new word, black people who gain some education love to use the term paradigm. And when I saw that word, I was trying to understand what paradigm means, because they were quoting the guy out of Brazil, Sister Esther Hyatt, Pablo Freire, and he had the sun paradigm or something. I just couldn't understand, because I didn't understand what the word is.
I still don't know what it is.
Well, I didn't read. I said, what is paradigm? What does paradigm have to do with education? And I'm looking at this thing. I'm trying to understand this book, and I can't understand. I never looked up paradigm. Now that's the reader's fault. You see a word that you don't understand, you go right to the
I go to the
dictionary or
dictionary.
go Google.
Yeah.
But the
Find out what it
dictionary is gonna give you.
Too
Okay.
many efforts.
No. The older the dictionary is, the more information you're gonna have. I'm digressing. But I was at an ad agency and they had a small library. They had these big dictionaries, like that big. So I looked at the word nigger one day. And nigger had all these entries. Nigger this, nigger that, nigger this, nigger that. I said, wow, man. Because that's incorporated in the culture of America. And you have to understand, see, I don't use N-word because that hides, this is a lesson I got from Dick Gregory, that hides the hand that created that word and applied to us. My personal position is that nigger is a state of mind. It's a condition. And it's like having a jerry curl, and you just can't wash that thing out. You gotta have a special concoction to get it out, otherwise your hair gonna fall out. So you have to understand the chemistry, and I use that term in quotes, the chemistry of the word nigger and its origins and its application to us that is now repeated among our young people, and they have no idea of its origin. But once you explain to them the origin of the term nigger and why it was used and how it's used, now they have a sense of, wait a minute, correction, self-correction, wait a minute, that's not a term of endearment that's putting us down. So I'm saying all that to say this. We have so many subject matters. We, black folks, and black people, I term as black people speaking English, black people speaking Creole, black people speaking Spanish. If you're original people, I'm talking about from our standpoint. Now, from their standpoint, they could be dark, they're super dark, and they have on the census that they white. That's their problem or their gift. I ain't got nothing
Nothing to do with that.
Got nothing to do with that.
I'm just talking about our mindset that we don't automatically exclude others. Because once we start getting goodies anyway, they're gonna start including themselves in the picture. Oh, I'm there too. So this program is dedicated to giving light and understanding and training to one another. And it does not reflect the views or attitudes or deeds of the management of the community center, nor that of the complex, the New York housing complex. However, the program does reflect the research done by the participants in the program who are live and live in color in studio and by phone interview. And today our guests are ourselves. And we can start talking about things that are on the minds of one another that we might be able to do some research on for the next show or the shows during the coming months. So, the floor is open. First start, this is how you prime the pump, right, Sister Jenkins? Everybody don't know about priming the pump. Sister Esther, you know about priming the pump?
Priming the pump?
Priming
Yeah,
the pump.
Get it brought in and get it together.
I could not understand why they told me to put the water in, but Negro Leroy, I'm a pump it anyway and the thing ain't come. They said, I told you before we put the water in here.
And pour some in there. Pour some in there and pump it. You gotta give for it to come up, right?
When you put it in that water come right up.
That's
And
right.
that's a science that I have to get somebody to explain to me, not just that it happens, but how you gonna put water in that lip and then the water come up?
Because I'm down to the bottom.
Yes.
Okay. What's in between me and where you pumping at?
Air.
Okay.
Figure, sister resident doctor said, figure that one out for yourself, brother. No. See, with those, that's like Asa, dropping something, and then you gotta think. And as you begin to think and look for an answer, whether it takes a day or two, or could take longer, that answer's gonna come to you. You take time. They call it the law of attraction. If you give focus to something, if you give attention to something, it's gonna come back to you. It's gonna come back to you. So the floor, the table is open. Anything that folks would want to discuss? Good day, brother. I'm Brother Leroy.
Hi, I'm William.
That was you back there making that noise.
Sorry.
There was a little mice back there.
I was trying to reorganize that.
You said Brother William?
Yes.
Oh, okay, good.
I thought y'all had met. No?
No, this is my first. I haven't
Oh, you
met
know what? We met in the gym.
Oh,
You
you're the
introduced
artist?
yourself?
You're not
Yes.
the artist.
Yes,
You're
the artist.
The
Yeah,
cartoonist.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
Miss
brother.
Lady. That's Miss
That's
Lady.
Miss
That's a
Biddy's
ventriloquist.
That's Miss
sidekick.
Biddy.
That's a
Wait a minute,
sidekick.
I'm a
Miss Biddy.
I'm a ventriloquist also.
Oh, you.
Uh-uh.
My mind didn't go back that far. I do the artwork. I do
Did
the
your mind go
artwork.
black or did it go back?
I do the
Probably never saw
artwork.
it.
Cause you was meeting with the youngsters. You was showing them the artwork
Oh,
when I came to meet you.
you gotta meet Miss Biddy.
Yeah, you got to meet Miss Biddy.
That's a show that only occurs every now and then.
Well, it's every Monday at 8:30 on Manhattan News Network.
Oh, really?
Yep, I've seen it 2 or 3 times.
So Monday
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Miss
At
Biddy is
8:30.
something else.
8:30.
Depending on which
PM.
cable company.
Yeah, if you have Verizon, it's on channel 37,
okay.
and if you have Spectrum, it's on 1993.
Oh,
Monday night.
You go
It's
to
tonight.
go to channel
gotta
1
call
and
them
then go
tonight.
back about 5.
My TV did the same
so
thing.
what's the name of the bar?
In the bedroom,
Miss
the
Biddy's
living
variety
room
show.
started.
Okay.
I think it's that box.
Worse than mine.
So when did you? Which one came first, the ventriloquist or the art?
Art came first.
And what
Yeah.
was the progression?
Well, puppets are basically three-dimensional cartoons of people. So all my life, especially when the Muppets came on the scene, that was like the evolution of puppets. Before puppets were little hand puppets, that type of thing. Muppets,
Okay.
the Muppets, their mouths moved, they had little hands that moved, all of that kind of stuff. It was so much more creative, and I was fascinated with that. And but being a black kid in Harlem, where you gonna, So I was blessed that I ran into this brother that was directing the Swedish Cottage Marionette Theater. And so I got a job there.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked there for like 7 years. So I became a professional marionette puppeteer. But then one day the kids would come in for the 1 o'clock show, but they would show up at 12. And they'd be sitting in the theater just with nothing to do for a whole hour. So eventually I would come out and I'd start talking to the kids and I'd start entertaining them, doing Simon Says and stuff like that. And then I would show them the difference between hand puppets and hand and rod puppets and marionettes. And that developed into like a regular routine. And eventually it got to be really, really popular. So I would just keep doing it until one day a lady came out and she said, unfortunately, she said, the guy in the beginning of the show was better than the show. And the director said, I don't think I like that.
Said What did she say?
The guy.
She said the guy in the beginning of the show
It's better than the
was
show.
better than the show.
And that was the end of your show?
That was the end of me. That was it. He had to get rid of me.
Oh, wow.
But by then, you know, messing around with the puppets and with the kids, I had started to develop. I had always wanted to do ventriloquism, but I never had the courage. But when you have, like, you know, a room full of kids that have nothing better to do, you try it, and eventually, I mean, nothing's perfect, but I got to the point where I'm very confident in it now. And then a puppet came in. This puppeteer died. When puppeteers die, they sort of donate their puppets. She donated her puppet, and it was a puppet very much like Miss Biddy. I forgot her name, Dottie Lee or something like that. And I started messing around with it, and people were telling me, "Yeah, that's really good. That's really good." So we went outside to get the video camera. I was gonna do, you know, at this time Jay Leno had this thing where if you wanted to be part of his you ever see that guy Ross the intern? His name is Ross something now, but he started on the Jay Leno show as Ross the intern, and he had a couple of interns on his show that he would just send out to interview people. But Ross was just so you know, that it was funny.
Oh, that Ross.
Yeah,
I know you
But
talking about.
when people went out, his voice was so high and he was so effeminate that people would look at, you know, you would see the stars looking at him like, what the heck is, you know? But now, look at him, that's where he's at. So
Yeah.
I was trying to do that with a puppet, and it would have worked. But then when he heard that I was going to videotape the situation, he snatched the puppet back. I don't care, blah, you know, this is a big, you'd be surprised where jealousy lives.
No, wait a minute, wait a minute.
Wow.
I'm missing something. Who snatched?
The director of the theater.
Not the marionette thing, because
Yes.
you had left.
No. This was one of the things leading to that.
Oh, okay,
Like,
it was
you
a
know,
bill.
in other
You
words-
reached the tipping point.
Yeah, he was saying, you know, I said, you're the guy that was encouraging me to do this. He said, yeah, but I didn't want you to make a career out of it. I'm like, okay,
What?
now I know, you know. He said, I didn't want you to make an industry out of it. I'm like, why wouldn't I, you know? So then I started looking up where I could get professional puppets made, and I found Miss Biddy. She's from the Czech Republic, and I said, could you take this and have it done in black? But you got to be careful when you ask for black. They might send you,
Right.
you know, mammy, you know.
See?
And so they sent her. I said, you know, not dark, you know, something that everybody can, you know,
Everybody can.
like a medium color. And she came in, and I started, and things started to roll. I think that was during the time when Hillary Clinton was going up against Barack Obama. And Hillary Clinton kept getting caught in all these lies. So unfortunately, the first thing Miss Biddy did was she was doing this thing about how she wasn't going to vote for Hillary Clinton because she kept getting caught in unnecessary lies, you know, dumb lies. Like I don't know where she went, Bosnia or somewhere, wherever it was she went, and she said that there was gunfire.
Right.
But a little girl came up and gave us some flowers. So, you know, you mixing, you know, unnecessary stuff. So that started it rolling, and then we put it on YouTube, and it got a few hits. And then we started doing other things, and I started to get hired to do shows.
Which is what you do now.
Yeah, I do children's
It's a
shows.
private.
I do children's shows, adult shows, and whatever we could come up with to put on the TV show, because we don't really have a format. I mean, my attitude is that the system, you gotta tap dance, you gotta kiss butt, you gotta do the casting couch. You know, somebody from over there could look at you and say, "Oh, I don't like your look," and then the next thing you know, you could have all the talent in the world and you'll never make it. So the variety show is basically for everybody and anybody who has something to display, you know, to give them the opportunity to be seen. So that's what I use it for. Like if you sing, if you dance, if you do spoken word, if you know, whatever it is that you do that you would like to do, as long as it's clean. I don't allow any, you know, no cursing and no sexually explicit stuff, you know. and basically everybody and anybody in our, especially in our community, can come to the show. You know, do you crochet and knit? You know, there's a lady on 120th Street, between Lenox and Fifth Avenue. It's called Grandma's.
Right
Toy
off the Malcolm X Boulevard.
Yes. Yes.
The children's
Better Paul.
toy
Yeah.
Right.
bookstore.
She's a friend of mine, and we came in and we did a whole show based on her store and what she was about and her family.
In the store.
Inside the store. You know, the store is
Beautiful.
it's a beautiful store.
Yeah.
So I mean, I couldn't have asked for a better background. You know,
So that was a show.
we did a show on her, and then after that, we did PSAs. Because somebody suggested, you know, don't just do a whole show, you gotta put in space for commercials.
Right.
So instead of, first we were doing the public service announcements, the official ones, then I said, well, why not do commercials for people, you know, so now all of the PSAs right now are about grandma's place. So all the commercials have to say, you know, come over to grandma's place.
Where does that run?
What is the show?
Okay, the PSAs. I'm thinking that it's a video, that it was a film production.
No, it's a public service announcement. In other words,
I know
it
what a
would be
PSA
like a
is.
commercial
Right, but where do you see it at?
on the show, on Miss Biddy's variety show.
On the Manhattan Neighborhood Network.
Yes, yes.
Right.
Because you can't sell anything,
No.
but you
Showcase.
can promote. You can showcase and promote.
Yeah.
So basically, you know, I'm just doing I'm doing commercials for grandma.
Oh, okay. So the PSAs run in your show.
Mhm.
I got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you did do a show in her store.
Yeah, one of the shows is all about her store and her pushing family literacy,
Mm.
you know, her dedication. You know, we were talking about doing a movie, and the movie was supposed to be based on that store, and it's turning out that the movie is actually, when I wrote the storyline, it's actually real. I didn't realize it. Like the same thing is actually happening. She has a beautiful little store, but like every now and then, you know, people that come in and they, you know, they're looking and they're saying, "Oh yeah, well, this is really nice. You know, I really like this. You know, this is good. Can I work for you?" And you know, and she's
She's
had people
skilled.
take from her, and she's like 70-something years old, but she's got people constantly taking from her, and family members that don't believe in it. So they're saying, "Oh, you can turn this into a yogurt spot, or you can make this into a little what do you call it, a real estate office, and you know, things like that." And she's saying, you know, she's an ex-teacher, so she's saying, you know, I want to do this for the kids. All of her toys are educational, fantastic stuff, things that, you know, as an adult you want to buy. You know, just to sit down and I always push it because, you know, it's thinking toys and stuff where you sit, you know, they have things for girls where they have little diaries and then they can make bracelets and rings and, you know, things like that, you know, and you can sit down with them and actually create this stuff and they can write this stuff down in their diaries. They have things for kids that involve robotics, you know, and there's a line of toys called Klutz. Klutz makes really, really good educational toys. They're a little pricey, but they're, you know,
It's worth it.
there's stuff to make a child think.
What is that?
They'll have like, for instance, if your child likes superheroes, right? They'll give them a how-to draw the superheroes book, but it's actually an art book, you know, showing you human
Really?
anatomy, but then, you know, you're gonna
Put the
adorn
pieces
it.
together.
Yeah, you're gonna put the costume on it and all the
That's
rest
the
of
one
it.
called Klutz.
Klutz is the line, but they have like a whole series of all kind of stuff for kids of all ages, but they're all thinking, you know,
Brain material.
yeah, absolutely. Like Lego will sell you things to just clamp together and make a
together.
wall or make a house or what have you. Klutz will take it to the next level where it's got levers and it, you know, it might have it'll show you how to make you know, show you how to make a castle with a drawbridge type of thing. You know, it just forces the kids to think. You know, So the stuff that she picks, they're all hand picked. She hand picks her stuff, and she had like vintage black dolls. I never knew that there was actual black Raggedy Ann dolls and Raggedy Andy dolls. You know, she had that for a while. Throughout the years, as I've gone in there, you know, the toys have evolved. But basically, you know, she's just frustrated because she's running it by herself, and you keep trying to hire people. You know, when you're in the 70s, you're not gonna come downstairs, pull up the gate, you know, run in there. You know, you need people to do that, and then people come in, and next thing you know, you find out people have been stealing from you, and that's, you know, and the pilferage is not low. You know, it's
And
not
it's
low.
pricey because of what she has.
Yeah.
She doesn't have stuff. She has goods.
Yeah.
Value.
Education.
She's actually had people dipping into her credit card account. Like that.
Oh God.
So,
That's no good.
She needs some help.
Something that you don't know. There's a brother, his name is Greg Hudson. And Greg Hudson, I met several years ago, but he lives out on Long Island in Queens. And there's a DVD titled Summary Judgment. And it's a compilation of these artists, writers whose work was stolen. And the way they steal it is that before it goes to trial, it goes to a judge. The way they steal your creative work, our creative work, their own creative work, it goes to, it has to, when it's a copyright infringement or hey, you know, that song came from my song. It goes to a judge first before trial. And the way the industry has to set up, all the judge has to say, summary judgment, this does not go to trial. And it ends the thing there. So this DVD is called Summary Judgment. And one of the people whose work was stolen is a black man in San Francisco or Oakland who did SpongeBob.
What?
Black man did, and he gives the story. Young brother, he was out of work, and he lived with his mom, and she said, well, look, you know, he liked to write. She said, well, she gave him some advice, basically, make something out of nothing. So he took these sponges and drew pictures on them, and had little pieces of paper with some kind of saying, and he went down to the highways and byways and sold these. People would buy the sponge and the saying that went along with it. And as they began to buy this thing, I'm going based on memory, as they began to buy the sponge combination, the sponge and the writing, he kept, that was encouragement for him, he kept going, but the guy that came by that just died is not the creator of SpongeBob.
So the guy who says he's the creator of SpongeBob just passed away?
It's a black guy. No, the guy at Disney, the guy, I think he died at 56 or something. It was just 2-3 weeks ago. He just, the guy that got credit for it, that stole it, he just passed.
He just passed.
Another story was Eddie Murphy and Martin, they did the movie Life.
Yeah.
Well, Greg Hudson did a play. He did the play, and he took pictures, video and still pictures of the play. The exact thing that they lifted. And his case, he was process of appealing. His case was also summary judgment. Because when you take that kind of case to court, you show on one side, it's called similarities or something. Then here's the points that's in my creative work. Here's what they did in their so-called creative work and how similar they are. And the date on yours. So that's how you have to approach it. But they had a rap artist, they had the SpongeBob, they had the brother that did Life. Maybe it's about 8 different people in there. There was a white woman who was at the presentation when I was introduced to the DVD. There was a white woman. She did something about Christmas, and they stole her stuff. So it's not. It's an equal opportunity, stealing opportunity that they.
When something is in the public, wait, how's it go now?
Public domain.
Yeah, doesn't it become public domain like after?
Public domain is like after 100 years, the trademark, the copyright. There was an article that was in the New York Times maybe 2 weeks ago on that, and the article is at the bottom of the page that is in, and it talks about the Great Gatsby. That's a part of the story.
Mm-hmm.
But you go on Google, you should be able to pick it up on that domain, because they were talking about works that's coming into public domain. But that's not when you copyright and take a trademark, or when you copyright something, and I'm not the expert, I'm going based on the interviews. When you copyright something, there's a lady, her name is Sophia Stewart. And Sophia says that they took
Matrix.
The Matrix.
The Matrix, and another one
The
with
Matrix, the Predator.
Predator, right?
And the Schwarzenegger one. Schwarzenegger was
Terminator.
Yeah,
Terminator.
That's the one.
Yeah, and she tells that story. Her book is called The Third Eye. The Third Eye. So we did some interviews with her. Fascinating.
She won her.
She said she won, but the industry would never promote that she won.
Okay.
She maintains that she won the case. She maintains it. But her trial and tribulation involved lawyers who were working the other side. And so she had to prove that they didn't do right justice by her, and then come back with areas that still were valid to be part of the suit.
So
But when I saw the Matrix, I'm sorry,
She had to fight against her own lawyers.
because they in the system, and but her name is Sophia Stewart. You look it up, in their articles on the internet. This is another thing. When you look up the internet, if you listen to, I'm digressing. You listen to somebody like Gary Knoll. Gary Knoll will have people on talking about. I think he had a person on today talking about the cell phones and the magnetic,
Yeah.
the radiation. So when you go to look it up, the industry has put out information, misinformation. So when you go to look it up, all their stories is up front in Google. You Google it, say, something is improving, there's no connection. You'll see those stories come up first. So you really got to dig
deep in it.
You got to get what Gary Knoll is talking about. I looked at vaccines today and autism, and they got stories discounting that. Those are the first ones that you see. But Greg Hudson is the brother that did Life. I mean, he did the material that Life was taken from.
And he never got any credit.
And he's still fighting it in court. But in the first go-round, it's called summary judgment, where the judge say, no, this doesn't go to trial, even though you got all your points.
The only way you got money.
That's the system.
That's the system. So, issues. Do y'all have hot water yet?
No, on and off. I don't think she has it. Mine is on and off.
Was yours at the same time as hers?
Hers was before me.
They're playing games.
Drive people out.
Serious.
Remember,
Put
she
the
ain't
stress.
riding on it. I'm in Johnson.
Right, I know, she's over here,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, it's,
They've been out for quite
It's
a
all
while.
over.
I
Yeah,
don't
no
understand that.
I've been
ain't
keeping
got no
up.
You got no
heat?
You know?
Nitrogen,
Yeah, I've been trying to keep
No
up.
heat and no hot water.
I don't
If
I
understand
they
told
that.
give you one, they
someone
don't
that
give you the other.
They playing games.
I
Why?
wonder if these developments, NYCHA, out in Queens, Forest Hills,
Some
around Jewel Avenue, that area, where
Have
it's
to do that.
predominantly white.
No, not really.
I wonder if they don't have hot water.
No, natural is natural. Look where all them projects at in the Bronx.
Yeah, what
Yeah,
about
All
all
over
them
in the
They ain't
white
had
area,
gas since
everybody
August.
area.
That's right.
That has nothing to do with it. If you're on the natural, you're on the natural. Natural do what they want to do.
That's right.
If you want to give you hot water, give you hot water. Tomorrow I'm gonna give you cold because I'm gonna burn you up.
How could you, not you, how could there be all these NYCHA houses at the same time not
Go
having
down.
water?
Mm-hmm.
And nobody knows nothing about it.
Nobody knows why.
Let me tell you something.
In my honest opinion, I think that NYCHA is a sinking ship.
Yeah,
And
but some.
nobody, I think it's like the Titanic. I think that they're putting on a big show. They got the orchestra up there playing and all of that. And only the guys down at the bottom of the ship know that there's a hole in it.
Wow.
The whole
And it's
business
going
trying
down.
to
Yeah,
say.
you
It's
go.
going down slowly, and the rats are snatching everything that they can to jump off. I
Yeah.
really honestly think that you could have never said that NYCHA was going to stop being responsible for all of the community centers, but they dropped them.
Yeah.
They dropped them all, and they gave them out to all these these private corporations.
Money snatchers.
Yeah, to come in and just do whatever they want to.
Slave traders.
You know,
Mm.
technically, I mean, you know.
That's what they're doing.
But first they do that, then they decide that they don't want to maintain it. So
Right.
then they tell these organizations,
Mhm.
if you want the center clean, hire
Clean it,
somebody.
yeah.
So now they
Yeah,
gotta
somebody
hire
clean it.
outside people. So they're,
Yeah.
they've gone from the community thing to sort of like screw the
Contract.
community. Let's just let's just do it with. I think that I really think because this is when people in NYCHA getting paid a lot of money.
For doing
Yeah.
They're not
for
going to
doing
let go of
nothing.
those paychecks, but I think they're all that money that's there that's missing, that keeps disappearing, the stuff that's not being done, the farming out of work when you have,
Staff that
almost completely obliterated community operations.
Yeah.
Because a whole lot of the nitrous done got fired and
Yeah.
took off and run away.
Either demoted or upgraded.
Well, you
All
got
of a sudden, 2,500 people are without jobs, and
Yeah.
they got, it's and then the other entities are just as smart because they know that they're not going to hire you full time. They hire you part time, so they never have to give you any benefits.
That's all the
That's it.
systems,
There's no
all the
benefit.
systems,
There's no benefits whatsoever.
education system.
You either have too much or you don't have enough.
They had not, there's a school, the Learning Tree up in the Bronx. And it's privately run and they have a pre-K.
Okay.
The city hadn't paid them, black owned operated,
Yeah.
the city hadn't paid them for that part of their school, because it goes up elementary school, but that part, they hadn't paid them since something like October.
Ooh.
And I maintain that it would not, this school is a school. I mean, it is a school that you would want your child to go to. And they teach, one of the highlights of that school is an art program taught by this Puerto Rican sister. And those children are putting out some mean work. They have a little hallway where they put up the artwork. I'm into art. I'm looking at this thing. I said, this is fascinating. But if it were in a different community, they would not have been shorted the monies that they have been shorted, something like 4 or 5 months, and they have to do gymnastics in order to pay staff. But you got thievery. You have, I'm talking about in the system. You have thievery. You have the racist stuff. Because they can't. If you have a school that's teaching black children and giving them an understanding of the world, and they're coming out capable, and that's not that shames the system, because black children are supposed to be problem children, slow, hyperactive, and when they're really not. It's a matter of giving them the time and attention that they deserve as human beings, not because they're black. If you have a class full of children from different races and religions, you teach all of them. You don't take one group and you'll be good over in that class. I was in a school and I was walking the corridor and children going bananas, but in this one class, they were gathered around the teacher, and it was a whole different group of people in that. And this is right in 135th Street.
What's wrong with that? To that.
I knew the deal. I'm looking at this thing. I said, but for our students, the way they trick any students, but for ours in particular, if you hip, you're a teacher that's hip. Oh, Mr. So-and-so is nice. And Mr. So-and-so, there's another school I was in. Mr. So-and-so was getting high on drugs. And he was Caucasian. I knew the man was high on drugs because you could see the man on it. He's just too friendly, which was a high friendly. And but he was the most popular teacher in that school. If you don't give us homework,
okay, what's wrong with that?
Yeah. What's wrong?
What did you learn today? What did you read? What was just? And if you didn't give me nothing, why? You will not come in my house and don't tell me why. That I'm going to school.
I'm gonna be there tomorrow. And if they left already, they're lucky. I'm gonna be there. Sister Jenkins. That's the only way you keep these people.
You have to stay on between the school and what is your child learning. You just can't say, okay, tell me what you learned.
Remember the brother we interviewed on the phone, Shango?
Yeah.
Shango goes into school. Shango goes into school in Queens, and he's a principal or acting principal at the time, and he's making an assessment. He's making an assessment of what resources and all that. So he said he noticed that after lunch, a good portion of the staff wasn't around. So he's seeing this thing. He said, where they at? They were here in the morning, and they gone after lunch. His school is on the border of, what's the county? Nassau or Suffolk?
You're right.
In other words, when you're in Queens, you pass from Queens into whichever one of those are, Nassau or Suffolk, whichever one they live there. So they went home and stayed. So when he made that correction, then he was on the enemy list. He was on the enemy list. And
so
they
who was
eventually
teaching
got him
school
out.
in the afternoon?
I'm sorry.
Who was teaching school?
They were
in Africa?
covering. They were covering for the ones who weren't there.
No.
Cover for the one that's left already, right?
They was
Probably
covering
a
for the
little
ones that
system
were.
going.
They had a system going.
I'm gonna go home Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You go home Tuesday,
Mhm.
Thursday.
They take turns.
Yeah.
Now I got your class and my class, right?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
Because the next day, I got your class and my class.
Mm-mm.
So you're at home.
But I gotta study 2 classes.
No, not if you're the teacher.
How do I know what you're teaching in the afternoon?
The kids don't care.
That's what the parents supposed to come to
But-
school and find out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
that's what they're supposed to.
But the reality is that, you know, if you give kids playtime, or you give them, you know, game time, and it looks like you're teaching, but you're really not. You're just keeping them occupied for a couple of hours.
That's all.
They're
Yeah,
not-
because
the kids are not going to complain. You know, the parents are not going to complain because, to be honest with you, we somewhere. Don't ask me where.
no,
I have yet to figure it out, but we dropped the ball someplace.
like I
Because
see
the,
over
the
there.
generations behind mine, I would say, is a totally different mindset.
That's right.
And you know, when you switch from the Board of Education to the Department of Education, and all of a sudden all the education has changed
Dropped
to the
out.
point where, come on, 30 years I've been tutoring kids and helping them with their homework. I'm looking at math now.
You don't
it
know
looks
how to
like
do it.
yeah, it looks like I have no
Yeah.
idea. I'm like,
What is
I gotta
it?
get the kids to teach me it. I said, what does this have to do with money? Math is about knowing how to count. Adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing, basically. Now, unless you're going to take it to another level, you're going to become a scientist, or you're going to become a whatever, you know, those are the things that you have to know. I've had kids, I did a little thing in my classroom, I made a store, right? Kids were cheating themselves left and right, handing me $1 for something that cost, you know, 20 cents and things like that. And I'm just sitting there looking at them, but, you know, why don't you know how to count
Yes.
regular
That's it.
numbers?
Right.
You could, you know, they could do all of that weird calculus
Algebra or
looking,
whatever they
whatever that
call
is,
it.
you know.
I don't know what it
but it
is.
has nothing, you know, that's about passing tests, but it has nothing to do with life. So they're removing our kid, you know, everybody's walking around like this.
With that calculator.
No, not the calculator, with the cell phone. And the stuff, and I was listening to you when you said the content of the words of the music. The stuff that's in the phone now is horrendous. It's ugly.
Yes, it is.
It's really ugly, and our kids know it verbatim. I do children's birthday parties, and I hear, "What the F, you ends and blah," and I'm looking around like, who's doing the music? These are 4 and 5-year-old kids, and they're listening to this, you know. And then I have to go, depending on whose house it is, I have to go to the person and say, "Excuse me, that music is inappropriate." You know, and I could get cursed out, I could get not paid, you know. But in most cases, you know, somebody will put. I've been in parties, the adults are dancing to it. Because when we hear the music, but we're not listening, you know, like how he said, it's like another language. It's English, but when somebody talking like to you like that, you don't know what they talking about. And you know, we just sitting there going, but we don't realize that they're saying stab your mother, kill your father, you know, prostitute your sister, that type of stuff. That's what's in the music. You know, and I keep telling the kids, I feel so bad for you. So bad for you. And they'd be like, why, Mr. Williams? Because you guys don't even know what it's like to have a nice song.
Yeah.
You know. Have you heard that?
That's not a new song.
It's fairly new. I'm
It
living
is?
my best life. But it says I ain't going back and forth with you niggas.
Oh, in that?
no.
No, I ain't heard that one.
That's
Yeah.
it's right. Like if you listen on the radio, you won't hear it.
You just did that.
But he's, you know, in the back, you know, my daughter's. I said, what is this you sent me? My daughter's 30. What is this you sent me? She's, you know, she said, LOL. She said this. She said, but it's a positive song. I said, but
And
it's,
it is.
but it is positive. But look at how you guys communicate. You know, I said, in the back. If you listen to that song, and just 2 weeks ago, I actually heard the real version of it. Okay. Excuse my language, but this is the song. The guy saying, I'm living my best life. I ain't going back and forth with you niggas. And in the background, you hear a guy going, "Smile, bitch! Smile, bitch!" And I'm sitting there. When I first heard it, I busted out laughing because it sounded like a joke that I would tell amongst my male friends, you know. But it's on the radio. It's not a joke anymore. It's the joke is now a reality.
Wow.
You know, and the guy who did it is making all this money. Like Cardi B is a stripper.
Ex-stripper, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You would think she was Jesus's mother now, the way they're treating her. You know, all of our women have to be like this, and you know,
Strip out.
she's on the air talking about the proper way to perform oral sex and all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And the kids are watching. I mean, especially the girls, they're all up in it, and we are not paying attention to these kids.
Nope.
Everybody has same way he's sitting there with it. Like that.
That's what they got.
They're
But they ain't looking at what he's looking
and
at.
they're in school doing it. They're in school with the things underneath the tables.
Yeah.
You know? I always tell a parent, look, give your kid a flip phone so that you can get in contact with them. Don't give them something that they
don't
can
need
get
that.
on.
Yeah.
And because of the same peer pressure that we have, where you couldn't just wear a pair of Skippies, no, you had to go get the Converse. Then you couldn't get the Converse, you had to get the Pro Kids. Then you had to get the Super Pro Kids. You know, they're up. They got $700 and $800 telephones for what?
Yep.
You know, and to do what? Their phone doesn't do anything different than a $50 phone does. You know, it's just the status of it. But the stuff that they're looking at, the stuff that they're able to download, is
It's terrible. I know.
absolutely terrible. I mean, it's
It's ridiculous.
it's crazy. And like I said, the schools are not really teaching.
They're
Just enough to pass those tests.
Yeah, they get paid, but
You
that's
know?
it.
You ask them to sit down and write a composition, completely flawed.
You got to work with them.
Yeah.
You got to work the whole. It's hands
That's
on.
it.
It's what we have to do, because the school definitely ain't gonna do.
No, they ain't gonna do it.
We got to, and it's hard initially because in our minds this is supposed to be done by somebody else. In our minds.
Because when we were coming up, it was done by somebody else. We didn't have to worry about the Board of Education. You know what I mean? It was standard stuff. Like, who took away Fun with Dick and Jane? They took it away because they said that it was, not that it was racist, but that it was biased. You know, all the pictures were blonde-haired, blue-eyed children.
Yeah.
So you changed the pictures.
That's all.
Why would you erase the you know
The whole book,
the
just
whole,
the
the
whole
whole
book.
series of books? Just change the pictures.
Yeah.
You know, they could be black, Jane could be black, you know, they could be black in Puerto Rico, it doesn't make a difference. Why, you know, change the names in the pictures.
No.
Now that I
They
would
had,
plagiarize.
they had to put it on somebody or something. Just like we said the first time. Who said had to be a special color on that Jane?
Exactly.
How did he have to look?
Exactly.
If he was too dark, then we would holler about he's too dark.
But the standard pictures that came with the book,
Didn't have no
all you
special
gotta,
color.
yeah. So
Learn
instead
long
of
as you
changing,
get it
instead
out
of
of here.
altering the pictures, they just removed the books
No,
altogether.
they just took the
And
whole
it would-
thing off there.
And you couldn't ask for better.
They dumping books.
The two
That's
books that I
right.
thought were the best, Fun with Dick and Jane, because it taught you how to read 3 and 4 letter words and make sentences and make a story out of it, you know, which was exciting for children. And the Dr. Seuss books, which are still around, you know, but because they rhyme, that's fun. That makes reading fun, you know. And if there's anything we love to do is rhyme.
That's it.
I always push the Dr. Seuss books because you can still get them, but you can't find. I went to Virginia and found in an eclectic bookstore some Fun with Dick and Jane books, and I started buying whatever I could find, whatever I could afford at the time, and I came back with them. And I do
Using with the kids.
intend to plagiarize those books.
They're in public domain. But
They are
Yeah.
they're in public domain from the Flintstones time. So I'm going to put completely different pictures. And I'm an artist. I'm going to put completely different pictures and start cranking them
That's
out.
that.
You know?
Like that little commercial with that baby and his father doing exercise. He's doing the exercise and he skipped one and she picked it up and said, "You cheating."
Oh wow.
So we'll have a guest next week. Pardon me. We'll have another guest next week. The guest. See, this is how you do shows. Right around us are people who got stories. Here's a brother. Fascinating. Fascinating. Brother William. What's the girl? What's the lady's name?
Miss Biddy.
Miss Biddy.
Miss Biddy.
Miss Biddy. We got people with recipes up there in these houses and whatnot, even though the gas may not be on. And you get them in the studio and they start sharing recipes. But an area that Brother William hit on is your mother in the home remedies. You hit on that. You said your mother's 107?
My grandmother.
Your grandmother. And she's the one that says put the poultice
Oh yeah.
on the chest.
Yeah.
in the what? How did she say it?
Well, it was, I made it up actually, but it was for her. Like you take the amulet, you know, and you pray over the person so that you can preserve their spirit, and then you know until the body heals itself.
Well, give me that again.
See, that's what he was doing.
He's about to
Gonna
play
replace.
drugs.
Yeah, he gonna do it. He's doing it
When
as
I
a
write it and
prank.
copyright it, I'll give you.
No,